Okay. Alright, I'm back. I'm punished. People have been saying, how could you have left us with a stream and then just ended it? I didn't do that. I was reacting to my Arizona Cardinals getting their asses absolutely handed to them by the LA Rams of all teams, a divisional rival, a team that quite frankly is rootless. It is an elitist, selfish, over coddled, subversive team. Like I said, rootless. It wants to expand its reach beyond its own borders. It is made up of a small tribe of people that are an elitist group, overrated, over leveraged, that wants to suppress the other older teams. And no, I'm not talking about Israel and Palestine. I'm talking about the LA Rams and the Cardinals. So I was reacting to us getting our asses kicked, like I said, and YouTube decided to suspend the stream for no valid reason other than because I was reacting to the highlights. Now, I don't know why it is bad for me to show people the highlights of the game. If you can look up the highlights of the game for yourself, it makes no fucking sense. Then you might be saying, well, the NFL is losing out on ad revenue. And if that's the case, well, screw them. It makes virtually no difference either way. So if they want to be cheap asses, that is okay, bros. But I just understandably am pissed off at that. But let's go ahead and talk about the Cardinals 2021 season because I developed a new hobby as of maybe the 8th week of the season here in October. Now, as you can see here, the roster is mostly the same as last year's. I wouldn't know too much about that because obviously I am not the smartest cookie in the oven, so to speak. I am not the best at NFL content, but I'm going to be good at it. I promise. Trust me on that. I'm going to be so good on the takes. I'm going to be so nuanced. People are going to be like, what the hell? So we acquired, as of this year, for the season, we've got AJ Green, who played for the Bengals for several years, probably since like 2011 or 12. Yeah, I was right about this. Adriel Jeremiah Green. I'd say he's a good receiver for $8.5 million. So a good amount of money there. Obviously not as much as Devontae Adams on the Green Bay Packers. Then we have Matt Prater, who's like a 40-year-old man at this point, but whatever. He held the record for longest field goal for 8 years. Okay, keep this in mind. He played with the Detroit Lions and went on to us. So we're paying him like $3.25 million a year, which is worth the money. Matt Prater has been extremely clutch and is a top 3 kicker in the league. You could argue Justin Tucker is better or that Matt Gay is up there. But again, with that sort of name, it demotes him to like top 10 at best. J.J. Watt of Texas. He's a pretty good player. We're also paying him a good amount, $14 million a year. The guy did well for the team. Now, there is an argument about utility for him. Obviously, we only played him in like 10 games out of 20, more or less. So, because of that, it seems like we might have not gotten our money's worth. But in reality, he did try. He was good for the team. He does a lot of prep talks. Doesn't sound like a fag about it, but I mean, it is, elemental for these teams to have a good vibe about them. And insofar as the J.J. Watt question is concerned, he did definitely boost the defense over 2020. And then we have OG, which is the guard, right? Offensive guard. Brian Winters. Nobody knows who the hell this guy is. We only paid him $1 million. I could care less about him. Malcolm Butler. This guy, $6 million for 1 year. You might think that's a lot. And quite frankly, I'm pretty sure he's the one who caught the interception against the Seahawks. I don't really care. Sean Williams, I have no idea who this is. Colt McCoy is a backup. Now, Colt McCoy is a pretty mediocre quarterback in his own right, but again, we got him for pretty cheap as far as I know, or maybe we did a trade. But overall, he was able to win 2 out of 3 games that we had him in. For example, we had him play against the Seahawks, in which he beat them. Again, this is mostly consistent of him using James Conner and just handing it off to the running back, but I think this is still a good use for a backup, right? Very cheap. Kyler was injured for several games. We used him against the Panthers. We got fucking destroyed. But besides that one, which was a fluke. He held up his end of the bargain pretty well. James Conner, like I said, also great guy. He played through injury and still overperformed the second string running back, Benjamin, and overall was really good. As of March of 21, obviously the Cardinals traded a third-round pick in the 21 draft for Rodney Hudson, which is a good deal. Rodney Hudson, really important towards the team in the offense. The center, I didn't know this, obviously. I'm a newbie. But apparently, he has to, get the ball from, up under his ass to the quarterback. And that seems more difficult than I'm imagining it in my head as. So the positioning of the ball is vital. And again, he has to get up from that and start blocking, which is important too. They traded Mason Cole. I don't even know who this is. I guess he was a center too. The Cardinals traded a fifth round pick and center cornerback Tay Gowan for tight end Zach Ertz. This was definitely worth it. Zach Ertz is a good tight end. I think he does get good yardage on his plays. Is he a top 10 tight end? Probably. Is he better than Gronk? No. Is he better than a couple of different other people? Mark Andrews in particular? No. But again, worth it. We did spend our first round pick on Zaven Collins, which was pretty ridiculous. We didn't really even play Zaven Collins, and we could have used a linebacker in this case. But of course, we didn't play him. I don't know why that was the case. I don't pretend to know too much about the NFL, but that is what it is. And then Rondell Moore was mediocre as well. He didn't get the ball too often, and that kind of is indicative of a skill gap between him and DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so I'll just skip over these other niggas because I don't care about them. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. All right. So we have our staff here. Of course, one of the big people that we are going to talk about today is the not the offensive coordinator, but a guy who makes a lot of the offensive plays, and that is Cliff Kingsbury, right? The general manager in this case. He is a mixed bag. The thing that everybody needs to point out about this guy is that he had a winning record in virtually all of his teams, even in the collegiate level of coaching for 8 years straight. But then in the second half, he had a losing record, which is indicative of him having a lot of good tricks up his sleeve that eventually get found out by the defenses of other teams. And overall, he runs out of tricks towards the middle. And that is obviously then going to take away any edge at the coaching level that he's going to have. And then at that point, you're relying on pure skill, which oftentimes his team did not have in order to win. So because of that fact, I do really believe that that Cliff is a liability, especially towards the second half of the season. Obviously, we could fix that by probably getting him an offensive coordinator that will add more plays to the playbook and otherwise diversify the amount of snaps we are going through different routes. And I'm having a hard time articulating this, but the point is that the Cliff Kingsbury thing is salvageable, assuming he gets over his ego, which will probably not happen. So we'll see what happens here. Anyways, let's go ahead and go through the final roster. So as we can see here, the quarterbacks are first stringer Kyler Murray, great guy. Colt McCoy, good backup as well. Trace McSorley, he never got played. Nobody gives a shit about him. Right, running backs. Eno Benjamin. Eno Benjamin is a good backup. I'd say he's competent at what he does. Not amazing. He played for Arizona State. I don't know about that, boys. James Conner, phenomenal on the Steelers. He had bad production with the Steelers in 2019, I believe, but still did well with the Cardinals despite getting injured, which is good. Chase Edmonds, also a good running back. And then Jonathan Ward, I don't have a strong opinion on. Now, in terms of wide receivers, we have A.J. Green, who for the most part did well besides the Packers game. We had Andy Isabella, who has the potential to be good, but obviously has a girly last name that is I just would not want to tolerate somebody with that name. Rondell Moore, Deshaun Moore, interesting middle name. Not really good. He can get cut. Anton Wesley, who did really well, honestly, against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 16, I believe, but overall has not performed to the same extent that any of the other receivers have. So I'd say that Wesley, depending on how much he gets paid, probably shouldn't probably should be cut at some point. Then we have Greg Dortch, who I didn't even know existed, so who gives a fuck? And then Christian Kirk, who is extremely hit or miss. I'd say Christian Kirk can be gotten rid of. I think he's too inconsistent to hang on with the big guys, and it's a shame that he wears the number 13 because he's not living up to my expectations. Gerald Daniels as a tight end, no existent. Like, I don't know who that is. Demetrius Harris, who gives a fuck? Zach Ertz, again, good guy. Offensive lineman, I don't know enough about this to care. Defensive lineman, I don't know enough to care either. Okay? Linebackers, Zaven Collins. Where are you, Zaven Collins? You don't even have a picture. You're irrelevant. Chandler Jones, great player. I would say Chandler Jones is probably over the hill. He is like 30 years old at this point, so he's probably going to decline, but I mean, we can still afford to have him for a little bit longer. I'd say Chandler Jones is also a guy who really performed well against the Titans in Week 5. No, not Week 5, Week 1, where we demolished the Titans. I think that the Cardinals going against the Titans in Week 1 was really the peak performance of what we can do, where we score a lot and don't leave up too much to hope for the defense, you know, as the other team is desperately clinging for fucking life in the second half. The defense did not let up with J.J. Watt still healthy at that point. We also had Isaiah Simmons, who has a lot of promise as well. Defensive backs, Budda Baker, always consistent, really good guy in terms of the NFL. Byron Murphy, also an above-average player. Jalen Thompson as a safety too. Again, nothing crazy. Marco Wilson, also nothing crazy there. Special teams, I don't really give a shit about this. Andy Lee, don't care. Matt Prater is good though. We can keep him. Reserve list, who really cares? Deandre Hopkins was injured for a really long time, which really blows because the guy is absolutely phenomenal and a top 5 receiver in my opinion, but undisputably a top 10. He is really noteworthy. DeAndre is a top 3 player on the Cardinals. Obviously, debatably, Kyler Murray is more important. You could say that J.J. Watt is a better player, but overall, I do think that DeAndre is up there. Okay, that is not even a... I'm not pranking. No joke. All right. Burp. Sorry. Okay, preseason. We went against the Cowboys with backups. Who really gives a shit? The preseason is completely irrelevant, and it's loser mentality, bro. Anyway, Bender Production says first, yo, what's up? All right. Futurama Robot, how's it going? Yo, what's up? Says GRTB. What's up, dude? GRTB says I had a lot of fun watching the Bucs and the Rams on the weekend. Yes, that was a lot of fun. I got to see it during work. What I thought was really weird was that, okay, don't tell anybody this, but I predicted the Bucs winning by 10, and so did the spread overall. Like, most people agreed that the Bucs were going to win, but then the Rams really did hand them their own ass. And people might have said, well, you know, the comeback was good, and I agree the comeback was good, but at the same time, you know, for you to go the first half without a touchdown is more indicative of you sucking, less so than you being able to clutch, because you only need to clutch when you're sucking in the first place. And so for that defense, for the Bucs to not hold the Rams to less than 3 touchdowns in the first half is also a bad look on them. But beyond that, I think that the O-line underperformed definitely for Brady, and Brady overall did not carry his offense to any touchdowns in the first 2 quarters, and that's pretty embarrassing on his part, you know, if he's supposed to be the GOAT and all that. Obviously, he did try really hard towards the end, and it showed up. He really did tie the game. I honestly did think that they were going to go into overtime, which would have been more interesting. But ultimately, we did see the big throw from Stafford to Cooper Kupp, and for whatever reason, Todd Bowles decided to run 0 blitz on Stafford, which in turn left Cooper Kupp with just one shitty Buck safety on him. And of course, Cooper Kupp juked his ass, broke his ankles, got the 20-yard reception or whatever length it was, and got within field goal range. Then Matt Gay, who should change his name by the way, got like a 40-yard field goal, whatever it was, and won out the game outright, which is embarrassing because, you know, Brady really laid it out there. He was bleeding in his mouth. Just for him to lose and potentially play his last game ever was quite embarrassing to Stafford too, of all people, who probably should have thrown an interception just by his own luck. But anyways, Angela says, yo, I saw you on the other stream, and yeah, I think you saw the stream got suspended or whatever because I was watching NFL content, which is really gay. GRTV says, I'm sad that the Bucs lost, but at least it was close. I still love Brady. Yeah, it was pretty disappointing to see him not be able to clutch it and at least not go into overtime. It would have been more entertaining. They were strong upon that point. Yeah, I like Coach Sean McVay. He's cool. Don't like any Rams players though. I hate Odell the most. He annoys me a lot. I understand that the Rams are AstroTurf. They don't really have a natural fan base outside of St. Louis, but I mean that was from a bygone Kurt Warner era 20 years ago. And in terms of the players right now, Stafford played for the Lions, and the Lions are like my second favorite team just because I'm from Michigan originally. So because of that, I mean, I guess I have a little more attachment to Stafford. And, he was on a shitty team all his life. So for him to actually be on a Super Bowl contender team is actually, I guess, interesting, and he does deserve it. I mean, his talent level does merit a ring at this point, I would say. Now, in terms of OBJ, that guy is a cocksucker. That guy's annoying, and he's a bitch. But he is talented as well. Let me think. Cooper Kupp, Hillbilly Jake Paul. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on the guy. And Aaron Donald is a piece of shit, smug. He looks fatter than he is, and he looks like DJ Khaled if he were in better shape. Okay, I hate Aaron Donald. He just annoys me. He rubs me the wrong way. And again, he had the stop hate helmet while he was choking out a Cardinals player. Just, this black on black violence needs to end. And Aaron Donald, you're a bitch. Okay? So, yeah, I think you're right about the Rams question. I don't personally like the team. Okay? I completely agree. Now, let's look at the box scores. I think that's what you call them. Week 1, on the road, right? Nissan Stadium. This was in, let me see, Tennessee, obviously. We beat the Titans 38-13, okay? Very cool. I think it was really easy for us to win that game, largely because of the fact that Kyler didn't make a lot of the same mistakes that he usually does. Okay? Now, if we look at the recap for the Titans versus the Cardinals, you'd be able to notice that
hung in the pocket, they couldn't move him off the...
Let's not play this. Let's not jinx ourselves, boys. All right. Scoring drives right here. You can see a lot more Cardinal player. So already, ball possession, very important here. Matt Prater hit all the field goals from what I can say. We got lucky in a lot of instances. Like, for example, a fumble. That's important. Yet again, a missed field goal. That was important. Interception, fumble, turnover. So again, they made a lot of mistakes, and we played it almost perfectly. This obviously is indicative of the team's success. Minnesota Vikings. We beat them by the skin of our teeth, and it was because they missed a field goal or something like that. Honestly, I think that game, I didn't even watch it. Because, again, I didn't really start watching the games until we played the Packers. The Jacksonville Jags, we beat them by 12. I think this game is somewhat interesting because of the fact that we really didn't beat them by a good amount. It felt like it took a while for the offense to kick into gear, but when they did, it did well. There you go. Anyways, this is kind of interesting. The Cardinals at this point got their first 3-0 start since 2015. It kind of goes to show that they have not been a good team since Carson Palmer, all right, who was the second most recent quarterback before Josh Rosen, who we should forget about because that guy was a piece of shit. Anyway, we have week 4 with the Rams, okay? So the same team that is going to the NFC Championship, we beat 37-20, okay? So we thoroughly beat them. As you can see here, we scored points in all the quarters, and the Rams went third quarter without scoring anything. So, again, that kind of shows how good the defense was with J.J. Watt on there. So, with the win, the Cardinals went to 4-0, and that was the first time since 2012 that we went 4-0. Also, it was the first victory over the Rams since Week 17 of the 2016 season. So, since before Goff, we hadn't beat the Rams, which is interesting, okay? Also, the Cardinals became the last undefeated team in the NFL after this game, which is interesting to me. Now, Week 5 against the San Francisco 49ers, this was a relatively low-scoring game, and right here, we were able to beat them based off of the defense mainly, 17-10. So, yeah, the 49ers, again, with Jimmy Garoppolo, couldn't do too well in the first half, didn't get any scores, quite frankly, and only got 1 touchdown. So, because of that fact, they lost. So, cool. Now, the Cardinals, at this point, were getting really hot. We beat Baker Mayfield's Browns. My friend likes Baker Mayfield for whatever reason. The Baker Mayfield experiment has been a bust. Yes, you got one good playoff win like 2 years ago, but that's about it. The Cardinals started 6-0 since the first time since 1974. So again, really important game here. We thoroughly kicked their ass. They only scored in the second quarter, where I guess the Cardinals defense took a lunch break or something, and yeah, we beat them 23 points. Really good. Now, week 7. Let's break it down with more what would I say here? With more detail. The Arizona Cardinals played the Houston Texans at home. This was the first game where the DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt Cardinals played against their former team. Okay? And that was the first game that we had Zach Ertz on, which is interesting that we scored so many points without Zach Ertz against the Titans. It kind of goes to show how well we did at the beginning. As you can see here, the Texans got a safety, which is kind of like a fluky, like didn't really happen again in the season. But yeah, 5-31, a rare score. It was the first NFL victory with the final score line of 31-5. So we're making history here. I didn't know that. First game with the 31-5. Interesting. Anyways, this is the beginning of the end, boys. The Packers handed the Cardinals their first loss to deny them a perfect season with the 24-21 victory on Thursday Night Football. Kyler Murray had the ball with time winding down and the ball in the field goal range, but a pass intended for wide receiver A.J. Green was picked off at the end zone by Packers cornerback Rasul Douglas, who began the season on the Cardinals practice squad, which is kind of ironic. But anyway, as you can see here, the Packers barely beat the Cardinals, and like this says here, the Cardinals could have opted for a field goal and tied the game and went into overtime and probably would have won it in overtime, but instead decided to go for the touchdown, in which Kyler Murray threw an interception, either due to him not remembering which play to do, or AJ Green just didn't turn around because he's a stupid, you know what. But anyway, we'll move on. We lost to one of the best teams, to be expected, honestly. Week 9, we can get this shit together, right? Now, remember, Kyler Murray had his ankle sprained at some point, I think, or he rolled his ankle because of some cocksucker defensive player, trying to get him his little legs and pulled on it too hard and made him step on his foot sideways, and so he got injured, right? Then I don't remember how DeAndre Hopkins got injured, but he wasn't playing against the 49ers in week 9. So yeah, the Cardinals dominated the game to sweep the season series for the first time since 2018 with the win. The Cardinals went to 8-1 and tied their 8-win mark from the previous season. So within week 9, we already did better, or we already tied with what we did in 2020, which kind of goes to show the elite performance from Kyler Murray in the first half and the huge improvement he had year over year. So yeah, we beat the 49ers by 14. It's really good stuff here. Right now, we went against the Carolina Panthers. Now this is, again, the beginning of the end. We lost 10-34. This was embarrassing. I want to cry. It is bullshit. It's unreasonable. It was a fluke. People called Newton Super Cam. He did the "I'm back." Okay, so he is a complete douchebag, and so I guess he was playing his heart out. He went back to 2015 Cam Newton, the MVP year, because he wanted to prove his salt when he came back crying to the Carolina Panthers after having that losing season with the Patriots in 2020. Okay, again, this is a fluke. This game should be deleted out of history. This should have not happened. This is bizarre. It's like when the Saints beat the Buccaneers 9-0. That is such a blip in history. That is so rare. I just don't even know what to do. Q-Tip says, was not expecting Packers to lose against the Niners. Despite the cuck nature of the NFL, still loyal to hometown, go Rams. Yeah, I think I also was pretty sure that the Packers were going to beat the Niners. So yeah, and in terms of the NFL, yeah, I agree. The NFL is cucked, but the sport is so good to the point where I cannot stop watching it. And the liberal stuff is not enough of an annoyance to stop me from watching it. I mean, it could stop me from watching it in the future, but not yet. And go Rams. Okay, well, boo you, I guess. The Rams beat my Cardinals in a way that I will not forget. That was brutal. The Cardinal is bleeding out of his ass. It was a rape. It was terrible. He got raped. Anyways, John Francis says, good vid. I know. Thank you, dude. Gracias. Okay. Then we have Seattle Seahawks playing in Lumen Field, obviously. The Cardinals went to 9-2, right? So here we go. The Cardinals just dominated the Seahawks through a run game. Obviously, Russell Wilson wasn't playing, and even if he was playing with like the broken finger or whatever. So I don't really blame the Hawks for winning that. I think that was kind of a fluke. Now, Arizona Cardinals at the Chicago Bears. So Kyler and DeAndre returned to the field after the bye week and actually beat the Bears in a sluggish win. Pretty sure Kyler only got 150 yards in this game, and it was probably because of the weather, honestly. It was only 35 degrees. It was kind of snowy, so I guess that is why. We kind of played like shit after the bye week, obviously, all that, so to be expected. We played the Rams again in Week 14, and we lost narrowly by 7 points, and it went down to a play by Kyler where he went for like a Hail Mary, but there was a miscommunication, and the receivers didn't get up right in they didn't like run the routes they were supposed to. So yeah, we did lose the game by a fluke. Like it, had things gone a little differently, it would have been a win for the Cardinals. And you can tell because when we look here, just look at this real quick. Cooper Kupp, yard-wise, did not do much better than AJ Green pound for pound. And this is without DeAndre Hopkins, okay? So, also, Kyler Murray threw 2 picks. So, if we take away the 2 picks, we would have won the game because he threw one in the end zone, first of all. And second of all, again, do you honestly think that we would have not have gotten another touchdown without DeAndre? Like, we obviously would have won the game with DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so for example, do you think that we would have lost? Do you think that the Cardinals would have beat the Rams had they not had Cooper Kupp? So for people to say, "Oh, well, the Rams beat you guys in week 14," it's like, well, yes, but we were missing our number 1 receiver. I want to see you guys beat the Cardinals without your number 1 receiver. Now in the wild card, we got our ass beat to the point where maybe you didn't need Cooper Kupp, but in general, yes, you did. In those 2 first games. Okay, so this one is a fluke as well. All right. Next, Week 15. At this point, we are going to lose our first road game. And this brings up an interesting phenomena, and that is that we lost road games a lot less than at-home games, which kind of shows, I don't know what's going on, a certain sense of complacency with the Cardinals. Thinking like, oh, we're going to win easily at home because it's at-home advantage. Clearly, that isn't the case. I don't know what that is. Is it a curse? Anyways, the Lions had a fully healthy team, and again, we were still missing DeAndre Hopkins in this game. And again, this doesn't excuse the Cardinals playing like dog shit. I honestly do feel that when we went to Ford Field in Detroit, that the Cardinals just assumed that, it is the Lions, that we're going to pulverize them. We shouldn't train that hard this week. We need to relax. We're going to do whatever the hell we want. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. And it was embarrassing. We lost by 18 points. Red Eagle was talking mad shit about it. We were going to bet money on the game. I thankfully did not go for it. It was really embarrassing. I just, I was getting made fun of for 2 weeks straight by Jack. It was just terrible optics for Cardinals bros. Lions finally got their shit together, and they started playing like a good playoff caliber team with Jared Goff at the helm. DeAndre Swift obviously doing well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, all these people connecting the dots. So on this rare occasion, the Lions actually outplayed the Cardinals in all schemes, and quite frankly, it is embarrassing. Now, keep in mind, Kyler Murray has never beat the Lions before, and I think that's kind of weird. Anyways, here are the little facts here. Again, really embarrassing. I'm pissed. Okay. Let's keep going. All right. Christmas Day, we had the Colts game. We honestly should have tied or won the game. This wasn't anything crazy. What do I mean? Carson Wentz, 18 for 28. Okay, that's like 60%. Kyler Murray, 27 to 43. Again, about 60%. Kyler had 245 yards. Carson had 225 yards. Jonathan Taylor only had 108 yards. If you guys remember, towards the end of the regular season, everybody was like, Jonathan Taylor, MVP, Jonathan Taylor, he's so good. Shut the fuck up. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, shut up. Please, stop hyping him up. Everybody else gets it. He's good. I get it. Bro, come on. So if you look here, even our receivers did about the same. This was not a big, like we didn't get our ass beat by the Indiana, how do I say this? Indianapolis Colts. Okay, we missed 2 field goals, I believe. Okay, look at this. Second quarter. Let's look for Matt Prater. Where are you, Matt Prater, bros? Matt Prater kick. 3 plays, 42 yards. Matt Prater. The point is that if I remember right, we missed 2 field goals. If we didn't miss them, we shouldn't have missed them because Matt Prater is an elite kicker. We probably should have tied the game, in which case we probably would have outplayed them in the overtime. It probably would have been an outright win anyway. So let's go ahead and say this. We probably would have won this game had things gone slightly differently, so this isn't the worst. Week 17 against the Cowboys, finally won the game. With the win, the Cardinals finished the league best at 8-1 on the road, which is kind of surprising. We've only lost once on the road, which was against, who was it? The Lions. And again, the Lions game was a fluke. The Carolina game was a fluke. And I think the Colts game was also a fluke. So that is like 3 or 4 wins where we should have won. Or losses where we should have won. Anyways, we did beat the Cowboys narrowly. Now, we did this without DeAndre Hopkins, which was really impressive. And part of it was through flukes, like Anton Wesley, the receiver, played better than he ever has. So that's one thing. Michael Gallup also tore his ACL, or he got injured otherwise when he got a touchdown. So that did help the Cardinals not get scored on too much towards the end. Obviously, that was really bad luck for the fucking Cowboys. Sorry, and overall, Dak Prescott played a little sloppy in certain instances, and I do think that their penalties were like really costly. And again, the one fake punt by the Cardinals saved their drive and let them get a touchdown, I think. So that was clutch as fuck. Also, keep in mind that there was a helmet catch, so we got really lucky to beat them by only a field goal. So this was kind of a fluke, honestly, on the Cardinals' part, but I think it was a hard deserved win. So also, we had lost like 4 in a row at this point, so for us to beat the Cowboys was extremely important in like stopping the momentum of hate on our side. If we look here, the loss to the Seattle Seahawks was brutal. I personally thought we were going to beat the Seahawks pretty easily. Clearly, that was not the case. Now, keep in mind that the Seahawks were guaranteed to not make the playoffs at this point, so they were just playing for posterity and for Russell Wilson's trade value going to the next season. And so at this point, I would honestly say that obviously Russell Wilson was playing better than he usually does, and Kyler Murray didn't really care where he was gonna, him winning the game wouldn't have done anything other than win us the division, potentially had the 49ers beat the Rams in an unlikely scenario, which they actually did in real life. But either way, it wasn't a big deal. So because of that fact, I do think that what the fuck am I thinking here? 49ers, Rams. Yeah, so overall, I don't think the Cardinals were playing as hard as the Seahawks, and we were playing at home, which for whatever reason is an omen for the Cardinals this year. I don't know what happened there, but we lost 30-38. This was a really close game. It was down to like 2 plays of a difference. I think that overall it was, had things gone slightly differently, we would have won that. Also, if the Seahawks weren't playing their last game with Russell Wilson, potentially, I think they wouldn't have put in as much effort either. So this was also a fluke. So when we look at the games that were flukes, we're looking at the Packers game. Had things gone slightly differently, that would have been a win. Then we have the Colts game that could have been a win. We had the Panthers game, which was a fluke. We had the let me look here. The Lions game, which is a fluke too. We had the Seahawks game, which was a fluke. And we had one loss that I'm forgetting here. Damn. Who was it that we lost to? Either way, instead of 11-6, it should have been like 13-4, 14-3. But I'll take 11-6. That is a lot better than 8-8, which was what we had last year. That is noticeably better. So yeah, our record back last year was 500. Now it's 647. So pretty good, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. Now, when we look at the NFC West, this is like the best division in all of sports, NFL wise. Look here, and we have the Seahawks at 7-10. Now, keep in mind that Russell Wilson missed 3 or 4 games due to his finger injury, and even for the games that he was there for the first 2 after, he was playing really bad because of the finger injury on his throwing hand nonetheless. So because of that, I would say that had things gone slightly differently, they would have been like 10-7 or 11-7, in which case they would have been tied with the 49ers. And they probably would have, like, we could have gone almost, yeah, I think all of these teams would have been playoff bound, which goes to show how stacked the NFC West is. And then the 49ers, which are making it so far to the NFC Championship. Again, a really good team. Besides Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously the guy has only a career because of his looks. No homo. But, Garoppolo is an average quarterback. And, for him to be elevated by the team so much is just astounding. Now, we have the Cardinals, which, again, had things gone slightly differently, we would have been able to secure the actual division title, but we didn't because the Rams got out of their early season slump and actually started performing well towards the end. And for a while, it looked like we were almost definitely going to win the division, but obviously we fucked up on a myriad of games to the point where we lost it narrowly by 1 game to the Rams, and we even had the tiebreaker with the Rams. So, yeah, it sucks that we lost to the Seahawks. Anyways, let's keep going. Let me think. So, overall with the NFC, there was the Green Bay Packers, who had a 13-4 record. Tampa Bay 13-4, Dallas 12-5, Rams 12-5, Cardinals 11-6, 49ers 10-7, and the Eagles 9-8. So had things gone slightly differently theoretically, I think that we could have had the Seahawks at 10-7 and the 49ers at 10-7, and we could have had four out of the 7 playoff teams be from the NFC West, and things gone a little differently, which is pretty insane to think about. But yeah, let's keep going. Of course, the postseason wild card, we got fucking eviscerated, 23 points. Embarrassing. Oh my god, I'm still feeling terrible about it. Yeah. Kyler Murray, 137 yards and 2 interceptions. We cannot afford interceptions in the playoffs, okay? And look here. He threw twice as much as Stafford and got less yards. I mean, this is kind of embarrassing. He played like dog shit. By him, I mean Kyler Murray. And I tend to defend the manlet, but come on. We got to step it up, boys. We cannot be playing like this in the playoffs. Next year, I hope that he gets the nerves out of him. Maybe he's less nervous and maybe he'll not choke as much. All right. Again, missing Deandre Hopkins was so key to us not keeping the season together towards the end. Okay, with DeAndre Hopkins, we probably would have won another 2 or 3 games, and not only that, but we would have probably have scored another 2 touchdowns against the Rams and at least lost in a respectable fashion, probably like 25-34, which would have been respectable, honestly. Whereas we are down to 11-34, which is pathetic. We were shut out the first half. That is terrible news. This is the sort of like. Oh my god. The Eagles did better against the Bucs than we did against the Rams, for example. Score-wise. I mean, this is just really embarrassing. I don't want to talk about this. This is depressing. So yeah. Fuck. Okay. Team-wise, let's look here. Passing offense, 4,200 yards per game, 251. NFL ranking, top 10. Rushing offense, top 10. Total offense, top 8. Passing defense, top 7. Rushing defense, top 20. Total defense, 11. So if we look here, the main blemish we have here is rushing defense. So this is the niche scenario where we could lose a lot of points, but it isn't to the extent that will make our defense completely weak. The only team that I could think of off the top of my head that relies a lot on the rush would be probably the 49ers, who we do have to play a lot. So that could be a liability going into next year with Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell on their team next year probably too. So that's going to be a liability going forward. But overall, again, like top 10 average. So total offense, for the Cardinals is top 8 in the league. So we are the 8th offense out of 32. That's extremely good. That is pretty much almost guaranteed playoff material offense. And again, that is without DeAndre Hopkins for most of the season. With D-Hop, we probably could be like at a top 6. Again, really good. Also, highly dependent on Aaron Rodgers switching teams, and that could change the dynamic. Obviously the division is going to get easier if we get a Trey Lance situation where he plays like shit next year, and a situation where Russell Wilson gets out of the division, in which case we have Stafford, who is going to have a deplenished team probably next year against Kyler Murray, who's going to step it up probably next year. So we'll see what happens there. Total defense 11th. Again, if we have a better offense, we can probably compensate, assuming Kyler Murray does not fuck up, which is a tall task. Passing, we have 3,787 yards by Kyler Murray. Again, he missed a couple games. Based off of those 5 games that he missed, he probably would have had 4,300 passing yards, which goes to show that Kyler Murray is still an elite quarterback. All right, and on top of that, he's 5'10". Okay, guys, he's 5'10". All right. If you were 6'4", it'd be literally unfair. If Kyler Murray were the same height as Colin Kaepernick, it'd be fucking unfair for these niggas, bro. You'd be balling on these people to the extent that they'd be crying home to mama. Okay, shout out Kyler Murray. I gave him a lot of shit earlier, but the guy is so cool. Travis Skepsko, I don't know how to say this. Travis Sepko. Is it over for Brady Sells? It pretty much is at this point. Brady, so here's the thing. For him to be playing at the level he is at the age of 44, I believe, is still really impressive to me. But overall, he's only going to get worse. Why? Well, again, when you get to a certain age, there's not much you can learn about the NFL year over year. So the experience gap between a 21-year-old NFL quarterback, a new guy, 23-year-old, versus a 30-year-old, is going to be so big to the point where the 30-year-old, despite being a little out of shape compared to the 23-year-old, will know so much more that he'll be better off physically. Whereas, Brady at 44, what does he know about the NFL compared to when he was 30? I mean, overall, it's about the same game. It's still, 4 verticals. It is still PA bootleg. It is still, shotgun, all these certain different assortment of plays. It's still it's still in the same ballpark. So for him to age is largely a negative, right? Because his body's going to be decomposing. He's going to have a noodle arm progressively over time. We saw what happened to Drew Brees. We saw what happened to Phillip Rivers. We saw what happened to, not Aaron Rodgers, but Ben Roethlisberger throwing fucking turds in his last year. Just god-awful play by that guy most of the time, sorry. But the point is that Brady, next year, is he going to know a little more about football? Sure. So will his skill go up a little bit? Yeah, marginally. But again, is he going to also age and get weaker as a man? And also the age is marginal at all these little things. Like, for example, throwing power. Going from 44 to 45 might only mean being able to throw a 70-yard pass to a 67. But overall, that is going to matter in certain key plays. And in terms of energy, again, he doesn't need to be running long distances, but in terms of practice and him recovering from injuries, it's going to take longer and longer because of his age. So his age is becoming more and more of a liability. And also, this is just assuming that he keeps up in perfect shape. He doesn't get really injured in a big way. And he also, overall, just stays healthy, which is also unlikely. The odds of him getting severely injured will go up with time. And again, he's only going to get marginally weaker. Sorry for misspeaking here, but I'm really wrapped around this age concept here. He has to get mentally a lot better every year in order to keep up with his body getting weaker over time, is my point. Okay? So next year, he'll probably be worse as a player than he was the year before. And you can keep saying that until he's 55, and you're going to be like, damn, this guy cannot even throw 20 yards. Assuming he plays another 10 years, which I doubt. So the point is that Is it over for Brady Sales? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is like curtain call. This is about it. It's only going to get worse from here. So for him to be, continually playing is a little delusional. I would say, you know what? I won the Super Bowl. I got to the divisional round. I did good enough. I'm done. Or, he could say, you know what? I'll try for the Super Bowl again on the Bucks or on a different team, and, maybe you'll have a 10% chance of being a champion again. Would I take the risk? I don't really think so. But again, it's his choice. I don't really care. Whatever. So is it over for Brady Sales? Yeah, probably. Individual. James Conner, 752 rushing. Not enough to write home about. Obviously, he was injured. So again, these injuries really catching up on people. Receiving, 982. Apparently, he got more yards than DeAndre. But again, because DeAndre missed most of the season, I hope he is able to